Epicurus believed the answer to correct living was to live simply, to avoid unnecessary things. And so he broke up values and life. In fact, he's most well known probably for his ethical system, which is called hedonism. Anyone besides Ryan know what hedonism is?
Pleasure and suffering are the only components of well-being.
Okay, that's dry, but accurate. So let me liven it up a little. Pleasure is good, pain is evil. Or the absence of pain is good, the absence of pleasure is bad. So all you have to ask yourself when you're trying to make a moral decision is, will this bring me, Fred Blackburn, pleasure? If so, by all means proceed. But if the answer is no, this will bring you great pain and suffering, stop. Don't do it. Now be honest, how many of you live like that? If it feels good, you do it. If it's causing you pain or duress, you stop doing it. It's pretty simple, okay? It's kind of how we're wired, right? We're encouraged to repeat pleasurable activities, even in our psychology, right? We were talking about those grooves in the mind. Each time you have a pleasurable experience, it like reinforces a pattern. Same thing, aversion therapy. If every time you do something, you get slapped, right? After a while, you'll probably stop doing it because you don't want to get slapped. But if they give you a little Jolly Ranchers hard candy every time, well, you might really begin to reinforce that behavior. Pleasure is good, pain is evil. He wrote it in the reverse, but it's easier to remember that way. But he wants to be very clear about this, that some pleasures are better than others, right? There's like higher pleasures of the mind, and then there's like base levels pleasures of the flesh. So first he wants to categorize the difference between natural and unnatural pleasures. So natural pleasures could be things like food and drink, clothing, shelter, rest, and sex. Those would all be like natural pleasures. They're not artificial. They simply come with being human. This desire for food and drink, clothing, shelter, rest, and sex. If you're looking at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these are like basic for survival. To survive, you need basic things. Unnatural pleasures would be things like fast cars, big screen TVs, vacation homes, jet skis, these sorts of things. And what Epicurus is saying is, yeah, those things are fun. They bring maybe a lot of pleasure or happiness to our lives, but think of what it takes to acquire and maintain them. And if you start to do the math, you realize all those things require so much of you that he says, if it's not natural, baby, it's not worth it. No matter how much it stimulates you and gives you those momentary highs, you're gonna have to pay for it through long hours or security systems or whatever. Natural, he then divides into natural necessary and unnecessary pleasures. These three, he would say, are necessary for survival, where sex is not. And you might be saying, Blackburn, I don't know if you're aware of this, but sex is necessary for the perpetuation of the human species. Well, Epicurus' retort to that was, don't worry. There's plenty of miserable people out there who are willing to have children, where if you want to be happy and enlightened, don't. Don't have sex, because we have learned where children come from, right? 15 minutes of pleasure could produce a lifetime of responsibility, right? So he's just saying, do the math. Yes, no one's denying that sex is pleasurable, but it usually involves another person, which now means not only do you have to take care of all your basic needs, you now have to take care of the needs of the other and any offspring that are produced, etc. And so he's just saying, think about it. Is that really worth it? And his conclusion is no. And even with the natural necessary pleasures, he's like, keep it simple. Keep it moderate. If you just ate beans and rice, how many hours a week would you have to work in our culture, make a minimum wage? Guys, I would have to work less than an hour a week to buy not just beans and rice enough for me, but for my friends, family, etc. You can buy a heck of a lot of beans and rice for 15 bucks, right? Or whatever minimum wage is in California these days. If you have fancy taste, if you crave prime cuts of meat, if you have to have the Kobe from Japan, beef, right? If you like the rich cream sauces, I'm a huge fan of like fettuccine Alfredo. Woo! But what I have learned in life is there is a cost to that pleasure. Because I didn't even know what heartburn was till fettuccine Alfredo. And so if I eat it now, I have to consciously think when I'm at the halfway point, you can keep satiating yourself with this pleasure, each bite of that creamy goodness, but you're gonna wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning writhing in agony in your bed from acid reflux and heartburn and all that. So what's it gonna be, Blackburn? And I am learning from Epicurus, stop at the halfway point, save that for another meal, cut my pleasure on the front end so I'm not having to deal with more pain on the back end. Okay, so that's this navigation. Same thing, clothes. If you're a slave to fashion, if you have to have the latest styles, designer brands, names, it could cost you a fortune to be outfitted. But if you're content with shopping at the secondhand stores, once again, you work 1 hour a week, you could literally have a new outfit every week, maybe a new pair of shoes every 2 weeks. Like for real, without exaggeration. Shelter, when I was a younger man, I literally had all my belongings on my back. I chopped wood, carried water, didn't have any rent because I lived in the wilderness. It was just good, free. So much pleasure, so much happiness, no stress about society or rent or bills and all of that.
You have a girlfriend?
I had a wife.
Oh man, you was winning. Okay.
And she's such a great wife. She's always happy to see me when I'm there, but doesn't worry about me when I'm gone.
Okay.
Is this a real person? Or are you just saying?
What do you mean, real
They're
person?
a real I'm just saying, I don't know if you're talking about it like in your head, like because of what you're teaching us. Is there
Oh, you're asking me an actual Frank
Yes,
question.
they're real
Yes,
people.
this is, and her name is the Wilderness.
Oh, see, I told you.
And she's always been faithful and true to me. Oh, I love her so. I'm gonna go see her shortly. Okay, anyways, back to shelter. You could buy a 10 by 12 tarp and 50 feet of parachute cord, get yourself a good sleeping bag, and that's all you need in Southern California. Like for real. I mean, so we're talking $250 to $500. You could outfit yourself. I bet a lot of you pay more for that for a room every month, right? Over and over. Right now, I live in a house over on Rattlesnake Mountain, but it takes half my income to have a roof over my head here in San Diego, even in East County. So I literally have to get up early, work throughout the day. Sometimes I don't get home till after dark to support a house that I'm living in. And it's just madness.
You're not even there half the time.
Right, I can't, because I have to be working to support it. Where when it was just me and my tarp, I didn't have to work nowhere, no how. I was good, I was paid for, clear, no mortgage, had my tarp. So this is what Epicurus is saying, is keep it simple in food, in taste, in desires, and then you will have time to do the greatest pleasure of them all, which is kind of like rest, but not quite, and he called it repose. And repose is where you're simply being, and you're thinking and contemplating about life, and you come up with great theories like this, right? Most people don't have time to come up with theories like this because they're working their butt off trying to pay for that roof over their head and to feed all those mouths and children and make their wives or husbands happy and all that, and he's just sitting on the edge of town in his little lean-to, making baskets and thinking deep thoughts. Good stuff. Now you might be saying, well, that actually sounds like a really disciplined, almost ascetic life, Blackburn. In fact, I don't know if this is true, but I heard Epicurus actually died of malnutrition. Like he overshot the simplicity. So be careful, don't overdo it, but you get the point. Don't be excessive. Keep it moderate, keep it simple. The Reformed Epicurean, the Roman version is eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow
It's not promised.
we die. Okay? So live for today. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So get all the pleasure you can now. If a little pleasure's good, a lot of pleasure's got to be great. So they just got rid of the whole moderation, simplicity thing, and they're just like, go for it. And to the point of great excess. And so normally when we hear hedonism or Epicureanism today, we're thinking of this Roman version. We're not thinking about the Orthodox Epicurus version.